A very beautiful evening to you, Nigeria. Welcome to another exciting edition of your show, The New Deal, on this dial, Obidient TV. Now, the New Deal is a platform where we talk about everything Nigerian, particularly how to birth in Nigeria that we all can be proud of, particularly every time we have the opportunity of going outside of this nation and then we get to mingle with other folks from other parts of the world. It's such an honor to welcome you to the show. And this promises to be a banger because I've got one of the most interesting individuals that you could ever talk about when it comes to Nigeria. I mean, as a brand, and when it's talking about Nigeria as a country, has embodied and epitomized everything that has to do with Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, he's been able to carve a niche for himself as an art aficionado, as a winner of different prizes when it comes to writing books and all of this. And just a couple of years ago, he was actually recognized as one of the top 100 most influential Africans. And I'm talking about an individual that I'm proud to call my brother. I'm talking about Dike Chukwumerije. He's our guest on tonight's show. Dike, good evening to you.
Good evening, my brother. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks for coming on the show. Guys, you get yourself ready for this conversation because this promises to be a big one. Tonight we'll be talking about what we have crafted as Nigerianism. And like I told you before now, DK embodies everything that has to do with a new Nigeria and the qualities that are expected of the Nigerian. Let's get to this conversation, DK. When we talk about Nigerianism, what do you think that means? You know, based on your own exposure, because I know that I've listened to your spoken words, I've read a few of your artistic works, and I know that you've always tried your best to project Nigeria. What is your definition of Nigerianism, using your terms?
It's a country where there is justice, where there is freedom, where there is truth, where there is equality of opportunity for all. It's a country where, to borrow the very famous but apt statement of my sister Aisha Yesufu, you know, where a nobody can become a somebody without having to know anybody. So when you talk about Nigerianism, it's that philosophy of equality of opportunity, justice for all, fairness, that allows every Nigerian to pursue and achieve their potential, their highest potential, in a country where our dignity as human beings, our rights as human beings, our freedoms as human beings are respected by the state. So for me, that's what the philosophy of Nigerianism speaks to: equality and justice for all.
Thank you for helping us to, create that, important background to this particular conversation. So I'm going to ask you this next question. You have, over the year, in the last, about 2 decades or more, you've tried your best to push works of art that preach about the Nigeria that you believe in. And unfortunately, despite all the work that you've done, and very many people like you have done, we seem not to still have that identity. Most Nigerians don't. As a matter of fact, the Jackpot syndrome that we have today is because a lot of people have lost interest, have lost belief in the fact that Nigeria could be that dreamland for them. What can you say to that?
I can say that every dream requires time and faith to come to pass. Nigeria is a work in progress. And yes, there is a generation of people who have lost faith and are beginning to jackpot. But I am of a reverse generation. You know, I had the opportunity in my 20s to go to the UK and to settle there. But while in the UK, it became more and more apparent to me that I belonged in Nigeria. I believe in living a purpose-driven life. That it's important in life to know your purpose and to know the place for your purpose. So I believe that what is critical is not whether I'm living in a so-called first world country or third world country. That what is critical is if I'm living in the place of my purpose. But as long as I'm living in the place of my purpose and I'm pursuing my purpose, then I'm going to live a fulfilled life no matter where I am. Because the quality of a man or a woman's life is more than bread and butter. It takes a lot more than money to live a fulfilled life. You must be living an intentional life in pursuit of your purpose. So if your purpose is in the UK or America or Canada, then by all means, go there and pursue your purpose. But if your purpose is in Nigeria, and you know it is in Nigeria, then do not let the hardships or the adversity of being in Nigeria turn you away from your purpose. But it's only because it is only by pursuing your purpose that you can actually live a fulfilled life. You know, so that's what I'll tell my brothers and sisters who are Jakpain. If that's where your destiny is, then go and find it. But if your destiny is here in Nigeria, then in spite of all the challenges, you will rise.
Dike, you are a son of a very very distinguished Nigerian who at a point was a member of the parliament and a very outspoken individual. As that. So from what you have told us, you were in the UK probably in your 20s, and at the point you felt like there was a need for you to come back home to come and fix what you believe was wrong with our system. Now I'm going to ask you in very simple terms. What do you think is wrong with Nigeria? And since you came back from the UK, what do you think you've been able to do to really push that agenda in order for Nigerians who have lost faith or who are probably losing faith to really come back into that consciousness that I'm Nigerian and I've got to make it work? What have you done?
In one simple sentence, I believe that our greatest problem as Nigerians is the way we think, our values, our civic values. I believe that our greatest problem is the fact that we have been raised and oriented to be very tribalistic when it comes to making political decisions. Our tribalism today as Nigerians is not a social tribalism. It's not an innate or organic tribalism. We're not tribalistic because we are different. We're just tribalistic when it comes to making decisions in the political arena. So the same Nigerian that has no problem marrying somebody from another tribe, being friends with somebody from another tribe, hanging with somebody from another tribe, will have problem voting somebody from another tribe into office or having somebody from another religion appointed into high office. So our tribalism is in relation to the civic space. And it's our biggest problem because it stops the common victims of bad governance. The same Nigerians who are experiencing the same conditions of bad road, bad light, no drugs in the hospital, no books in school. We're all experiencing these effects of bad governance together. For 3 years, we complain together, we abuse the government together. In the 4th year, when it is now time for us to stand together and make an objective decision about the best person or best set of people to lead the country forward, all of a sudden, you will now remember that I have Igbo. That one is Hausa, this one is Christian, that one is Muslim. So because of this tribalism, we're never able to unite and form a sustainable united front against bad governance. And that tribalism is in us. It is in the way we think. It is in how we view each other in the civic space. That is what I believe is our roots, what I call the original sin of the Nigerian nation, the cancer, the virus all of us carry. And why my work is mostly targeted at speaking to that and helping us to see that when all is said and done, we did the same boats. We are suffering the same thing. And until we allow that to begin to impact on how we choose our political leaders, we are constantly going to be in the same place. So my work is mostly focused on unity and rising above the limitations of tribalism and parochialism.
Okay, I like the way you take your time to answer questions. You really do it in such a way that every individual that listens will know that you're trying to pass across a certain message. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think Nigerians are educated enough to eschew all these tribal sentiments, just as you've said? First and foremost, we need to understand who a Nigerian is. Very many people don't actually believe that they're Nigerian. I mean, you get some people say that they are friends, they are Odudua, they are Odudua, offsprings and everything like that. Some are Arawa people. So how do you tell people who in the first place have not seen themselves as a part of these house? How do you sell to them the idea of a united nation called Nigeria? Really, how do you do that? If we all don't see ourselves as one, how do we make it happen? Because the reason, for instance, you've just made an allusion to what is happening politically now. I'm a Yoruba individual, born in Oyo State. I'm from Ondo State, and I realize that very many people cannot come to terms with the fact that a Yoruba individual who is not competent, who is not equipped with all the necessary tools to lead this nation, doesn't deserve my vote. But a lot, including my parents, believe that since he's a Yoruba guy, he deserves my loyalty. How do we make people see that, first and foremost? That because we're from the same place doesn't mean that I should actually kowtow to you.
Absolutely. Now, first of all, a lot of the anger people feel against the Nigerian state, a lot of young people feel against the Nigerian state, arises from bad governance. It's not that people don't love Nigeria, it's that people have been abused by politicians in office for so many years that love has now turned to hate. It is difficult to love a country when the government of that country is being badly run. But I dare say that Nigerians love Nigeria. When you take the conversation out of the political space, the same Nigerians who say they hate Nigeria and are living abroad, every day they are listening to Nigerian music, they are waiting for their relatives from Nigeria to come and bring them pepper, to bring them kilishi, to bring suya from Nigeria. They are rocking Nigerian fashion. They are bigging up over the achievements of Nigerians in Nollywood, in music, in fashion, in all kinds of things. So Nigerians, once the conversation is not political, you find a lot of love for who we are, how we talk, our language, shine your eye, ginger your swagger, come up for road, our humor. All these things are things that Nigerians, it's what you miss when you're not in Nigeria. So that love is there. It's just that it has not been able to translate into patriotism. So I'm very confident that a state, a Nigerian state that shows a decent level of good governance will suddenly find all this so-called hates turned into passion. Because really, that hate, all this, the agitation for a different country, it is just a reaction to bad governance. It's not that in their heart, people hate their own homeland. It's not, people don't hate, it is a reaction to bad governance. So the moment you begin to give us good governance, you'll see how all that same hate or anger is turned into a passion for the country. Now, for those who don't understand why a Yoruba person should not vote for an incompetent Yoruba person, it is for us to begin to highlight to them that, look, that day when you are being driven about in an ambulance from hospital to hospital in search of oxygen, and you are lying there gasping, it is not the ethnicity of your president that is going to save your life. It is their competence. You know, when you are there calling for police to come and help you for armed robbery attack, and the police is telling you that there is no fuel so that they can come to your rescue, it is not the ethnicity of the Minister of Defense or the Minister of Internal Affairs that is going to make a difference. It is their competence. So these are the arguments that we need to make and continue to make, particularly to people from the older generation, because it's a bit harder for them. For those of us that come from a younger generation, a lot of integration is already taking place. I can't really blame parents because many times somebody that is born in, you are from Ogun State, you are born in Ogun State, you did your primary school in Ogun State, you grew up in Ogun. It's hard for you to realize that people from Anambra are human beings just like you. But you're having younger Nigerians today. I come from Abia State, but I was born in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I live now in Abuja. It is very natural to me to understand that Hausa people, they hunger like me, they have ambition like me, they hurt like me because I've lived amongst them. I grew up. So their humanity is apparent to me. So it's easier to make that conversation with the younger generation. And that is why there is hope for Nigeria, because there's a generation of Nigerians that are being born in a different social dynamic. That dynamic simply has to be translated into the civic or the political space, if you understand what I'm saying. But the social demographic is there already. There are Nigerians already that this rhetoric makes sense to. They simply need to be organized and mobilized to let their voice and their weight and their number count in the political space. And that is what we are beginning to see. From the NSAS movement to the Obidient movement, what you are seeing is the awakening of a new Nigerian socio-political demographic.
Deep response you just gave there, Dike. I mean, I am so happy that you had to say the way you did. But let's come a bit, personal. I know Dike has been up to very many projects in recent times, and you belong to those that I call the intelligentsia. You're using art to really pass across that message of a new Nigeria that you believe all of us should actually buy into. Let's talk about your artistic, should I call it expedition or journey? How has it been really? What influenced your decision to decide to really preach that gospel through spoken words, artistry, and then some other works of art that you've done?
Thank you for the question. Like you said, I'm more of an intellectual. I like to read. I like to write. So I started out my career writing articles and writing things. Writing and publishing poems and all that sort of stuff. But then I realized something that I published my first collection of poems maybe 15, 20 years ago, and I couldn't sell a copy because really my people don't really like to buy books and read, particularly books of poetry. But then one day I was invited to an event and I read a poem from my collection. And the reception was amazing. Everybody was raving about the poem. And I said, but the poem is in the book now. Why don't you just read the book? But that occurred to me that people prefer to listen than to read. And so I said, well, if that's the mode of communication that gets across to them, I will then begin to speak my poetry. And that's really how I got into spoken word. Because I realized that my audience, they are more receptive to spoken word. And when you now start adding music and dance and costume and drama, Nigerians like drama and comedy. So you can't just come and you have to say things like, coconut head is what you call your dearest. Leave me, Joe, is how to say it best. If you touch me again, it's the language of lovers, laughing and fighting under one. So now poem I did do. But because I'm bringing Niger language, I'm bringing in drama, all of a sudden Nigerians are listening and they're consuming it. So the moment I found a formula that worked, a mode of delivery that was effective for my audience, I stuck with it. But what I've always done is I've always been on point with my messaging. Because poetry for me is a tool for advocacy and not be just entertainment, say I look for celebrity status. No, it is a tool for advocacy. So once I found a mode of delivery that worked with the audience, I now began to really deliver that message of rising above tribalism and voting for good schools rather than voting for somebody from your tribe. Vote for good school, vote for good hospital, vote for good road. Because having the Minister of Defense come from your village will not save you the day armed robbers come to your house. What you need is an effective police force. And it's if you vote in a competent person that you will get an effective police force.
So the way you view life, you would say that your background probably informed it. just like I said, you probably might not be able to blame folks who really are not readily taken to books because very many of them probably, were born in an environment. And for them, books do not really help them to quickly, go on that hustling thing and make money as it were. But you were born into what some of us would call, a house of privilege. Your dad was a former senator. You have a brother who is also successful, in the sporting world and everything like that. So it kind of was easy for you to really to feel like, okay, I can do art. I can focus on literature. I can do my advocacy like this. Would you say I made sense with that assertion? It was easy for you because of the environment you grew up
in. First of all, my father wasn't a senator when I was born. My father was a journalist when I was born. When I was born, we lived in an apartment in Shomolu in Lagos. So it's not, my father had to work his way up. But I agree that I am privileged because, that's not abject to middle class, is not abject poverty. But still, it's not like we had everything that we needed. My dad still had to prioritize books. He could have used the money he was spending on books to buy himself another car or to travel abroad. But he prioritized books because he understood the power of ideas, the power of knowledge. So it's not really about being privileged. It's about priorities, setting your priorities straight, and even as the child of a successful politician, I could have made nonsense of my life. I could have lived a useless life. I could have, without discipline, without hard work, without diligence, whatever it is that my father leaves to me will be squandered within 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So it's even for the first generation has to work hard to lift itself out of poverty. But the second generation has a lot of work to maintain those standards. It takes a lot of work to maintain the standards that you've been given and to move things forward. So whether you are first generation or second generation, the same principles of hard work, discipline, humility, keeping your head down, and focusing on your purpose apply. So those that use the poverty of their parents as an excuse, it's just an excuse. Their parents were rich, they will still end up poor because of their mentality. But those that have a proper mentality, even though they're coming from poverty, they will end up in prosperity and fulfillment because of their mentality. So your mentality plays a huge part in how your life is going to turn out. So I'm somebody that was never raised to say, oh, my father is this or my mother is this, never raised to do that. I was raised to stand on my own 2 feet, to find my own purpose and to follow it with diligence and faithfulness. And that's how I've lived my life. That's how I'm raising my children. Tomorrow, somebody will come and tell my child, oh, your father was a famous poet. That's just excuses that people give themselves from generation to generation. If your father was poor, make a decision that you will not be poor so that your own children will be children of big men. And then you teach them how, even though you are the child of a big man, grow up with the mentality of a hustler so that you can keep and grow that wealth. So these are the things that matter in life, the mindset you give your children.
Thank you, Dike. I'm sure Senator Uche Chukwumerije will be proud of you wherever he is at the moment. I'm honored to have engaged you thus far. We'll take a little break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Dike Chukwumerije, a Nana Prize winner, won that in 2013. So thank you guys. Welcome back. This is still the New Deal. It's a creation of the Obidient TV. And on a night such as this, I have the honor of playing host to one of the brightest minds of his generation. And when I said that because he's been able to epitomize what a true Nigerian, what a progressive Nigerian, what a young Nigerian should actually do. And so it's such an honor to have them, be my guest on today's show. Dike, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so Dike, you made a and what you've been able to do artistically. I remember you were while giving some examples, you mentioned musicians, entertainment gurus in Nigeria. Let's talk about Nigerian artists, musically now, what they've been able to do. As it were, globally, Nigerian artists are enjoying rave views. I mean, rave reviews. A lot of people are doing everything to do collabos with them, not just that, to even invite them, for their gigs and stuff like that. For you as a young Nigerian, for you as an individual who has been preaching this gospel that we need to birth a new Nigeria where our values, our morals, our belief system will change for the better. How do you feel? Knowing full well that Shakara, I mean, he's supposed to be a newbie, but that guy is already, getting tongues wagging across the globe. What can you say about, that artistic side to Nigerians?
It's phenomenal. It's amazing to see all amazing artists, and Nigerian music has paid its dues. They are amazing in themselves, but they're also standing on the shoulders of giants that went before them and those dues. And I always tell people that Nigerians are innately and naturally talented. This is a country with a deep tradition of innovation and creativity. And it goes right back to our roots as a people. But as a people, we're a people that exist at a crossroad, at the meeting of Northwest and Central Africa. And wherever you find a crossroad, there you will always find some of the highest expressions of creativity possible to the human spirit. Because that's the nature, that's one of the benefits that diversity in a melting pot. So that's the spirit you see coming through in everything that Nigerians do, particularly in the creative space. So Nigerian music at this time is doing us all proud. That spirit is going to power us top rankings in sectors across the globe. It's just a question of time.
Man, I like the fact that you ended that particular response with a prayer. Let's go political, full blown now, and let's talk about the Obidient movement. A couple of minutes ago, you actually said something about how the movement evolved, and then let's talk about what we have now. How impressed are you, by what these young Nigerians have done? And do you think the individual that seems to embody their what you call their future for Nigeria? Do you think that individual is worth it?
It's an amazing movement to see Nigerians come together across the divides of ethnicity and religion. In the political space, this is the manifestation of years of praying and wishing, talking, and to see it coming to pass, to see that social demographic finally finding a voice in the political space. It's an amazing thing. And I'm so happy that I'm living to see it. And Mr. Peter Obi is worthy in every sense of the word to be the arrowhead of that movement, stand at the peak of that movement. For me, it is first of all his simplicity. I cannot say it enough. That he stands in line, he carries his own bag. It matters. It matters to see that you are being led by somebody that truly believes in the concept of public service. A public servant, not a king, is not a monarch, is not an emperor. He is a public servant. And Mr. Peter Obi embodies that. And I think it's so important in our polity at the moment. Then his probity. This is a country where we all acknowledge that corruption is a big problem. And here is a man that you can trust with every kobo of public resources. It is an answer to our need in the moment. Nigeria needs to become more accountable. The government needs to be in the hands of somebody who can be held accountable. And that is Mr. And the fact that he does not have godfathers or godchildren, I love that. It's not a product of, oh, this person is my godfather and I'm using public office to be creating godchildren all over the whole place. I would call that building. That is not building. They're not supposed to use public office to build people. supposed to use public office to build the nation, to build the system, to build the structure, so that everybody can have equal access. That's what public office is there for. If you're interested in building people, then go into philanthropy, not politics. This is somebody that understands what politics is there for. So Mr. Peter will be for his simplicity, his honesty. The fact that we can trust public resources in his hands, and public resources will be used for the public good, not for financing a private structure, a structure that owes you personally, owes you loyalty as a person, but financing the upliftment of the common good of all Nigerians. So for all these reasons and more, I think he's more than worthy to be the arrowhead of the Obidient movement.
Wow, 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 wow. Great one from you, Dike. And I couldn't have prayed for a better individual to do this interview with, this evening. Such an honor to have hosted a gargantuan mind like yours. I mean, such a beautiful individual you are, particularly on the inside. You're bright, and then you're fertile. I mean, and it shows in all that you've done artistically. So thank you for gracing, this special with your presence. So really, I'm not going to let you until you do us the honor of serving us one of your works, particularly the one that resonates with this season, the one that every individual, as we prepare to go to the polls, put to identify, we can put that in our pockets and run with in a new Nigeria that we all can be proud of and eventually be better. Please that with us.
A broken road does not understand Igbo. It will not kill the rest of us and let the Fulani go. The accidents it causes will break all bones, for when a vehicle somersaults, it takes all lives. So you can speak Yoruba till morning comes. It will not build libraries in our public school. And when a young woman lies dying in childbirth, your fluency in Hausa will not save her life. For Christian or Muslim, it makes no difference. When you're being driven around in an ambulance, from hospital to hospital in search of oxygen, northerner or southerner, you will die suffocating. You will die of causes easily preventable, like no fuel for police to answer your distress call, no water, no lights, no nurses, no jobs. Nothing kills as efficiently as bad governance. My people, this is what I want us to remember as we go to the polls next week, Saturday, that nothing in society kills as efficiently as a politician in high office with low mentality. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Great one from you, Dike. And I couldn't have prayed for a better individual to do this interview with, this evening. Such an honor to have hosted a gargantuan mind like yours. I mean, such a beautiful individual you are, particularly on the inside. You're bright, and then you're fertile. I mean, and it shows in all that you've done artistically. So thank you for gracing, this special with your presence. Thank you so much, Dike, for joining us on the show tonight. It's such an honor to do this with you. And I hope that when next we invite you on this show, you will do us the honor of accepting our invite. Thank you so much for coming.
I would love to come. You guys are too cool. And I love the flow of the conversation. Please keep it up.
Thank you, brother, and you have a sweet night to rest. We pray that the Nigeria that you will be proud of, that I will be proud of, in the not too distant future, actually, in some 7 days, we'll be able to experience such a nation. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful night.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay, guys, you've been listening to a very interesting time with, like I told you before now, the Dike is known as a major spoken word artist, and he's been able to do that, consistently for about 2 decades. And he's also carved a niche for himself. Most Nigerians are now taken to spoken word artistry just because of a pathfinder like Dike. Such an honor to have him today, guys. Let's do this again next time. Until then, remember, this is New Deal, a creation of the Obidient TV. And tonight we have talked about Nigerian-ism. Guess what? Dike killed the talker. Let's do this again some other time. My name is Waju Akin-Emmanuels. I go by the sobriquet Dynamo. Goodbye. Have a beautiful evening. I love you.